Welcome back. If you never liked, subscribe to our channel before, I ask that you do so now. That way you can get the latest content as we drop it. Now, today on the show, I'm going to have a good time because I want to talk about how and what strategies you need to utilize when you find yourself with a bad experience in business, and you actually need to be able to use that as ammunition, fuel for you to take the next step. One of the interesting things is that most of the time we don't normally use it as fuel. But when we get back, you're going to see how you can use it as fuel. Welcome back. If you never liked, subscribe to our channel before, I ask that you do so now. That way you can get the latest content as we drop it. Now, today on the show, I'm going to have a good time because I want to talk about how and what strategies you need to utilize when you find yourself with a bad experience in business, and you actually need to be able to use that as ammunition, fuel for you to take the next step. One of the interesting things is that most of the time we don't normally use it as fuel. But when we get back, you're going to see how you can use it as fuel. Now, today on the show, we're going to talk about 4 different strategies that you can implement whenever you have an experience in business that actually causes you to have a worse day. You know, like that Monday or like that Tuesday. Today on the show, we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through a couple steps that you can implement in order for you to be successful when you feel you're not. Let's go right into it. Learning from your worst experience. Here's an important note. Focus on what you did right. I think a lot of times when we are in business or any type of situation where we're interacting with someone else, we tend to focus on what went wrong. But in order to learn and glean and to begin to go through life where we're removing the areas where we lack maturity and the areas where we lack proficiency, where we can get strong with that commitment, it's because we focus on what we did wrong, not on what we did right in that situation. And it's imperative that no matter what takes place and regardless of what situation that you're dealing with, you always focus on what you did right. Now, it's not saying that we ignore what went wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in order for you to move to the next step in your learning curve and being able to shatter anything that's going to make you hold up, hit the brakes, or struggle to kind of get through that day where, it happens at 8 o'clock and still 3 you're telling people about it. Or it happened at 9 o'clock at night, 2 days later. You ever see that? 2 days later, boom, here, you're still dealing with the same situation. Well, the way you do it is this. Step 1 is focus on your strengths. Step 2, take advantage of your adversary's weaknesses. Again, take advantage of your adversary's weaknesses. 3, find value where others don't see it. And 4, don't get caught up in the wanting. I think it's important that, and I put this out here early because what ends up happening in a lot of videos, you got to wait all the way to the end. I want you to wait to the end, to be honest with you. But for those of you who don't want to hear a story breakdown, not saying that you don't, but sometimes in a story, it shatters some of the things that we kind of go through in order for us to really centralize the information that we have a comprehension. I always say a good story allows you to kind of get through it, right? Now, with that being said, that's one of the things that keeps people from actually doing very well in business, is that they have a strong desire of wanting, but not a strong desire of focus on what they did right. So let's look at it this way. When you're in business, it's going to be like inhaling and exhaling. It's something that we do and it's unconscious unless you're short of breath. Well, look at our bad times in business. Regardless of what it is, it reveals in us areas where we were, I'm not going to say necessarily hubris, where we wasn't focused, because that's the key. When we only focusing on the good times, the bad times are the areas where we were not necessarily, like we was aware of it. I'm aware that this is not being done. There's no difference when you're at your house and you notice that you have a family. Let's say you have 3 kids, and you and your wife are the ones that's normally washing the dishes. You notice that your teenage kids will walk right past it. You see that a couple of times, you walk, you keep it a note. You're not really addressing the issue for whoever's responsibility other than the mom and dad to wash the dishes. Well, if you keep doing that, you're cultivating adversity. You're also cultivating getting yourself upset as well. Now, if you think about you want those dishes done, then it means you're gonna have to get out of that uncomfortability and say, hey, listen, I need your help on this, or if they're responsibility, I need you to take care of your responsibility. Because when you take care of your responsibility, it makes it easier for me to cook later. A lot of times I'll see situations in my own house where it's directed this way: wash the dishes so I can cook. Where that should be understood, especially if you're not the one cooking. But for those who don't pay attention to that, how come we tend to ignore those things? Because we're avoiding that aspect of our responsibility. And every time that we actually don't avoid it, we notice that it gets done, right? Now, the other thing I'll point out is when we're taking advantage of your adversary's weaknesses, there's two ways you can look at this statement. And I was taught to look at it this way first. I'm my adversary. So I got to take advantage of my adversary's weaknesses. If I'm very poor at writing my schedule out, I need to take advantage of that by writing a schedule out. That's the way I was taught about taking advantage of my adversaries. The other way, a lot of times when we're doing consulting, we talk about taking advantage of someone who's actually your competition and figure out what they do right and what they do wrong, especially if you in a space where when you're going out, they say, let me use landscaping for example, because in the summertime you see different landscaping companies working side by side. Right across the street from another neighbor, there's another landscape working 2 doors across the street, and they're cutting grass. 2 houses over here using the same one, 2 houses on the other side, and then another 3 down here are using this guy. And you're like, well, how come it's not just one? And the main reason is competition. So the question you would have to say is, okay, what are they doing right, and what am I going to do better? Because that's really the answer. How do you take advantage of your adversaries? Is be better than them, be more committed than them. It's not going to be a price thing. It's going to be your commitment to go above and beyond. And for a lot of people, they actually think that if I just bring my price down, it's going to help. Not when you're doing sort by price, because everybody can bring their price down. Well, there's going to be that one extra step that you're doing to be more committed than what they're doing. And you may say, well, what is that step? It's going to depend on what you discover. One, that you're not doing consistently, because I go back to the first point, I'm my biggest adversary. I need to actually beat myself before I go out and beat the competition. Because if I can't learn to recognize from outside influence, that means my loved ones, my family, my friends, my business partners, pointing out flaws that's in my character. Well, I say by behavior, not necessarily character, but in my behavior, which is weakening the view of my character, then automatically I'm going to find myself at not being able to beat myself. So how can I beat my competition when I can't recognize my own weaknesses? Keep that in mind. When you find value where others don't, how do you find value where others don't? Well, the statement sounds almost, let me just tell you. Finding value is finding the way that you interact with complimenting. When we see everything from a standpoint of comparing us to them or them to us, even though we got to look at our adversaries and find their weaknesses, we have to be able to beat them by using this one here, finding value where others don't, and our ability to compliment better. Well, someone asked me before, well, what's different in your service than the service that from this person? Let's say it's ABC. The answer is always going to be internally that I showed up. That's what makes it different. The unique way that I approach the situation, which makes us different. When you're dealing with people who are looking at sort by price, they're saying there's $100, yours is $150. What makes me paying $150 more? Well, again, when we think about an iPhone versus an Android, anybody who has an iPhone would tell you, I know why I pay more for it. So and that's a branding thing, but it's also because they do things a little better than an Android. I've had both in my lifetime. I've had Android for 10 years. And then after that 10 years time, then I went from going from an Android device into Apple, then back to Android. Now I've been committed to Apple. And you say, well, he's committed to Apple from the standpoint of branding. I'm committed to them because there are certain functionalities that I've accustomedly gotten to. Now, if something comes out better, and it provides the services, and when it comes to what I do, then you can best believe that I will be committed in the rest of my life to something completely different. If it's going to Compliment me. Remember that. Don't get caught up in wanting. In business, this is what makes us fail. It will always make us fail. This is the reason that prior to us even getting in business, and we work a job, is the reason that our paycheck is from a youth to an adult, where our expenses and the desires of the things that we want to project out to everyone else, we end up with empty pockets. It's because of the word wanting. In business, this word wanting is centered in emotion and pride. It is truly centered in emotion and pride. And it's the killer of business. If you get what you want, you expose your weaknesses faster. You'll hear the term microwave mentality. You hear, grow slow, finish fast. They're given keys because part of our makeup is that we got areas. That's how you know we shooting this, and I'm not even going to edit out. This is how we know we got weaknesses. Is because we get into a situation where in our personal life, in our business life, wanting, which is centered in emotion and centered in pride, causes great danger to us. Again, wanting causes great danger because it's centered in emotion, it's centered in pride. One of my biggest failures is because of this word. Wanting to make people better. Wanting to impart skills that can't be transferred over to a person who lacks experiences. I mean, when you think about all the players right now, women and men, in all these different sports, they end up getting to the highest level, and I'm going to say the highest level is, they get to the collegiate level before they get to the highest level. They get to the collegiate level and they're dominating. But as soon as they get professional, there are certain ones that excel and there's other ones that you're like, what happened? In college, they were all world. They get to the pro, and because of wanting, pride and emotion, destructive. I can name a few players. You can name a few players. You probably name ones that I wouldn't even name. But I can tell you their destruction because of wanting. Wanting to be a basketball player will destroy you faster than just playing basketball. Wanting to try will make you unsuccessful as much as saying that I did it. This is the reason I don't like to use the word try. I didn't try to do business. I'm doing business. In the process of doing business, I am also removing some of the things I lack. But I'm not wanting to do business because that means I actually will not do business. I will begin to take certain small steps to give the personification of business. But at the end of the day, I'm not really trying to work that hard. And if that is the case, then wanting to be a business owner, wanting to be successful in business is always going to be centered in emotion and pride, which, if you use this fuel correctly, you get certain short spouts of energy, but it's not going to where you get your persistence from. You're going to get your persistence from business, from being able to beat yourself. And when you beat yourself, you listen to the people outside of you. I get it, guys. I really do. I mean, when you're in business, you come underneath some of the most adverse times in your life. I don't wish no one going into business at this point in my life. I say, don't do it. If I can bring risk into it and scare the heck out of you, great. Because if you're wanting versus doing, beating yourself, improving the areas that's being pointed out, if you're going to fight everything, then business is not going to be for you. Because business really, though, people say you fight the world. Okay, well, that's a concept. What worldview are you fighting? Then when you finish with that one, jump into fight another one. But what are you going to be committed to? Interview is the question. Because there's many worldviews. Today, there are many worldviews. And you think, well, what does that got to do with business? Because it has everything to do with how you improving the areas where you lack. And they're going to be found in wanting. They're going to be found in your worst experiences. And they're going to be found in how good can you focus on your strengths and improve your weaknesses. Today on Business Pro Tip Wednesday, that is my message to everyone out there, whether you're in a relationship, you're in business, whether you are a manager, and if you've ever said in your life, I don't get paid to do that. That is centered in wanting. You got the position, now you don't want to deal with the choices of, well, I don't get paid to do that. I would tell you that in order for you to become indispensable, you have to accept that there's things you do in your life that money can't compensate you for, but the gift of experience can. See you next Wednesday.
Having cool-looking business cards feels great. But cool-looking cards and feeling great don't pay bills. Money does. Finding someone to design cool business cards isn't tough. Finding someone to design cool business cards and a plan to get your money back is a different story. CFS Studios. We're a different story. Call today, 402-804-3777, extension 700.